Hey everyone, just real quick here at the top of the show, I wanted to let everybody know we're starting a new clips channel. Should be a link showing up top here somewhere. It's to try and find an audience that's looking for shorter content. So if you're here, you probably like the longer stuff. But if you could help us out with a sub, some likes, comment or two, might help the channel gain some initial traction. So if you can help us out, please do. And if you didn't know, live episodes are at twitch.tv/Blazzinbob, usually Friday and Saturday nights. Take it easy. Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazzinbob, and we are joined today by veteran, part-time host Duranasaur. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Always happy to be on. I'll stick with veteran. I don't know about part-time host. I don't know if I should, if I've earned that or anything yet.
Oh, you definitely have. You definitely have. But we're also joined by first time on the show, SilverTV. How are you doing?
Yeah, first time here. Feeling good. Excited to be here, and it's nice to officially meet you.
Welcome. It's so crazy because when I first found your stream, it was a long time ago. Gosh, it was sometime during Classic, but you talk and kind of look exactly like one of our officers that was in our guild, Ashley. And so like you might be from like the same area of Canada or something, like because the accents are very similar. It's pretty funny.
Funny. I've gotten that a lot. I'm not Canadian. I live in Florida, actually.
Oh, no shit. I thought you
That's what I was going to say.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, do your research, Bob.
I get that all the time. I'm like, what is it? I don't know if it's my accent or the way that I talk or what, but people always think I'm Canadian. I'm not, at least not yet. I don't know.
Maybe it's because you're so nice. I don't know. Wow, that's crazy.
Let's go with that. So let's go with that.
Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. I am so sorry. I guess I never looked into it. I just was like, oh my God, she sounds just like Ashley.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, Florida is such a mix of people from everywhere. I feel like we don't really have a regional dialect, so it just kind of sounds like everything at once. So
you gotta pick up a lot of different ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my bad. So you two do know each other then?
Yeah.
Oh, Silver and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we've played together a lot in the past through Classic community and hardcore and all of that stuff. I feel like I've known Duran pretty much as long as I've been streaming.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Duran was one of our first guests. We first had Salve Dally, then Melderon, Willie, and Def Camp, and then I think Duran was the next. So yeah, it's crazy. All right, well. Let's get into the show. So first off, I like to remind everybody that we stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Blazzinbob. That's BLAZZINBOB. I also want to mention we have a new Patreon. We just started it last week. We have 3 Patreons now, so we're getting there. It goes by 3 tiers. The first is DPS, and that's just if you want to help us out and give us a coffee each episode, and or for me something else. And then the next tier is healer, and that's that tier gets you the raw audio hours after we record live, so you don't have to wait until Monday. Then the last tier is tank. Tank, you will get your name read at the top of every episode, and it's a huge commitment. But we do have, well, here, just because he's our first, Andre Gall, thank you for being our first DPS Patreon. Thank you so much. You started the ball rolling, and then we do have one tank, and that is Ryan McNerney. Thank you so much for your pledge. It's going to help us out a lot. And yeah, that's patreon.com/Warcraft Reloaded. I'm done talking about it because it weirds me out. So you guys were asking for us to have a Patreon, so we have it now. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't make me too nervous, but it does make me nervous. I'm just letting you know. Because, you know, once you get paid, it's like good. A job, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's growth.
Yeah. And it definitely helps because it just allows us to do more things and maybe branch out, make different types of content in the future. So thank you so much. Next off, okay, so the show for today, I'm going to read one email. We had a few, but I'm just going to read one. Then we're going to go over what we have been doing lately in WoW. And we'll talk about all of our, like, where we're at in raid progression and like how raid's going. And then we're going to move on to the news. There's a good amount of news, not a ton, but a good amount. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get Duranasaur to update us on Season of Mastery, you know, to the top of the news. And then at the end of the show, like we do with new guests, we're going to get to know Silver and do our normal new guest interview. So strap in, guys. Let's get it going. Oh, and I also should mention, I mentioned it in pre-show, Mel is not here today. Send her your happy thoughts and send her your, you know, good vibes. She has COVID. She came back from out of town. Didn't feel real good. She has COVID. It's kind of hit or miss, but about an hour before the show, she was like, there's no way I can do it today. So hopefully she feels better tonight, but send her some get well wishes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to read this email and bear with me because smooth brain, I don't read so well. So, hey, hey there, Bob and Mel and Deserter Yip, my second favorite now, lol. I am a very casual player who just loves to listen to the podcast. I work around 55 hours a week making custom cabinets here in KCMO. KC. Go Chiefs. I enjoy listening to your show every week and have just started looking into your Twitch streams and other things. I love everyone's energy on the podcast. Makes me feel like you all have very strong opinions on what you love. I currently am in a leveling guild on Westfall, and I am looking forward to Wrath most. I have listened to your podcast on Spotify from episode 1 to 101, then backwards to 1 again. Interesting. It's interesting how many of your opinions over time have changed on different subjects, like Bob's view on RDF. My personal opinion on RDF is I wish they would bring it out server-wide, and if you have to, after 15 minutes, can branch to 1 or 2 servers. However, they need to be the same servers every time. That way you can whisper or still tell other servers about bad players. I love the RDF because I hate quests and just like to dungeon grind all my characters. Get the good dungeon gear and PvP with them in the later level of the tiers. Also, being able to grind dungeon after dungeon helps me as a dad with an 11-month-old son and wife who enjoys my time as well. I hope you all have an amazing week at Raid and look forward to everything that you're doing in WoW TBCC. With much love, keep it on. Gold, currently all alliance due to IRL Friends Choice, Westfall.
For the Horde.
Oh, that was a mouthful. Oh my gosh, I did not expect it was going to be. I don't normally read these. I make Mel do them. So, or Yip. So, yeah. But yeah, okay. So the thing I pulled out of that is the changing of opinions. And I don't know if that's a dig or if that's a pro, but for me, I think that's a pro. I feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's a pro. I think that's one of the things I like most about you guys and some of the other Classic WoW podcasts that I listen to is that a lot of the times you'll have someone on who's passionate and on the opposite end of the spectrum as you guys, and you'll come away from that conversation going, well, you know what? Maybe I think differently now. And I think that's a very mature way of going about it.
I mean, I just think it like goes back to the thing that I say all of the time. Once you think you know everything, you've lost. Like, and that goes for anything in life. But I know this is opinions, and it doesn't really truly apply to like that exact statement. But still, being able to change your opinion, I think, is a good thing if you really get a good argument. Yeah. Everybody's had that one friend that you can argue with and give them good points, and you even see it in their head. They know it's a good point, and they still stick to it. They won't ever change.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, I've had a very similar experience even recently with like chatting with people about Season of Mastery and what they did with that game. Cause I was such a diehard vanilla servers should stay vanilla. Mm-hmm. And after talking with a few people about like, you know, how you're probably going to get the most people back onto fresh vanilla servers and sort of what you need to do to like lower that bar or barrier to entry. Now I'm sort of like, okay, so maybe the like increased leveling speed is good. Maybe having professions proc extra consumables in vanilla is good. Like maybe these things are actually something that I should be like rooting for instead of dismissing because it might help like the community as a whole. And that's like a positive thing. So
yeah, I was kind of like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the conversation has definitely shifted from no changes to some changes, but what do those changes look like and what's going to be best for the game? And that's definitely an ongoing conversation and subjective, right, for what you think would be best. So having those conversations is really helpful to understand different points of view.
And there's so many strong opinions in the Classic community. And I think just opening up your mind and really listening to someone else's point, you know, instead of just waiting for you to make your point, you know, can help us all. You know, it could be good for us all. But thank you so much for your ride in, and glad you are part of Chiefs Kingdom. Go Chiefs! So, all right, let's move on to what have you guys been doing in WoW lately? Like, are you guys in beta?
I am, yeah.
I'm not yet, so I've been just doing all the things in TBC to get ready for Wrath.
Which is what I was doing, and I got in just on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. Yes.
How's it been so far?
Overwhelming, just because I am an add-on freak, and like just not having a bag add-on. Like,
oh man.
It's horrible. I got in there with my warrior, and I'm like, I have 3 different gear sets I need to switch between. How do I find all this gear in my bag? And I had to make a bag just for gear, and then I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, did I have boots for my tank set? I don't, or was I using PvP? It was horrible.
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't even think about people with multiple gear sets. I just know I loaded into the beta and I've never played Wrath ever in my life. And so I immediately get to Northrend and I'm like, all right, it's questing time. And I go and accept the first quest and I open up my map and I'm like, I have no idea. So like every single quest that I've done in Wrath, which has been a lot, I have to read the quest text, which is kind of a cool thing.
Questing without assistance, I feel like would be so difficult. I saw somebody playing and the quest text said, return to me once you finish this. And he's like, where the heck is me? I don't remember where he picked up this quest.
It's hilarious. And I'm like, wait, okay, where's this village? And I'm like, I was in Borean Tundra, And they said, go to this village, and the village is just right there by the town. But I went all the way out into the wilderness, and I'm like, I don't see any. And I'm like opening up the map to see where I could see this village at, because it's not marked on the map. And I was just like, oh, it's back down here.
I don't know how many people realize this, but throughout like vanilla TBC, and now when I've found it in Wrath, there's a lot of things they don't put on the map. Like there's like not even just like blatant like text of so and so place on the map, but like, because you can mouse over a lot of places on the WoW map and it will give you an idea of what's there. Mm-hmm. There's some places like that's not even a thing. Like you just have to know exactly where they're talking about, and without having any sort of like questy or rest XP or anything like that, you just like kind of lost. You're just going based on like the quest text saying, well, last time I saw so-and-so quest mob that I want you to go talk to, they were heading southwest, like from this point. And so now it's like, okay, so I have to find that point. And then I'm just like, I'm going to just like do this like pattern back and forth southwest and hopefully stumble upon this mob. It's, yeah.
Well, and then even on top of that, I first get in and I had worked up 2 tunes horde side in Wrath. I had concentrated most of the time on Rogue, and then I had worked up a lock that I did just very little with, right? But I'd always done it in Borean Tundra, and everybody was like, you need to try out Howling Fjord. So I have never seen Stormwind docks and all that. So like I go see what that's about, and there's no signs for the boats now. Like I don't know if that's a bug or what, but I didn't know what boat was going to what. I was like, I had to actually look it up to where to go. I was like, oh, I have to go to Methanol Harbor, and there's no signs for the boats there either. Like there used to be signs. I don't know if that's a bug or not. But yeah, it drove me nuts.
Sounds stressful.
Yeah. Well, what have you been doing in TBC, Silver? Because I still
that's what I want to know.
There's still plenty of stuff to do in TBC. Like I feel like I've probably still been doing more TBC stuff than Wrath. So I'm curious what you've been up to.
I mean, the list is never ending. I am still working on getting some gear from Sunwell and kind of rounding out some parses on my main tune. They enabled PvE to PvP server transfers, which also allowed me to move some characters that I hadn't been playing this basically since the beginning of TBC over to my main servers. So I've been trying to get those tunes caught up. And then I've also been leveling up a new main for Wrath as well. So kind of finishing up the last of my leveling. So it's a lot, getting gold for Wrath, all of that stuff. There's plenty to be done for sure.
So what server are you on now?
So I have most of my tunes are on Fairlina on the Horde side. And then I have my one warrior that's on the Alliance over on Benediction. So I have 470s is where I'm at right now going into Wrath.
Yeah, because you are in... Def Camp and Melderon's, they were in your guild, but now now so they're not.
Right. Yeah, I've been in their guild, and then last week Mel retired. I think he was on the podcast talking about that a little bit. So we're kind of transitioning over now. A lot of the same group of people is still going to be playing together under a new guild tag, but yeah, I've been playing with them for the last few months.
I may or may not have been trying to poach some people.
Uh-oh.
I'm kidding.
Is that where you play too?
Yeah.
Where are you guys at?
We're on Benediction, and Ale has one tune that's like a social tune in our guild. So I've been like, hey, if it doesn't work out, you can always come Alliance side.
True. So, we're keeping him for now.
he's pretty zug. So I don't, it's more of a joke trying to get him to come over. But we'll see. As long as I get to play with him sometimes, it's okay. But do you do a lot of, is it all guild raids, or do you do, because I do a guild raid with my main, and then I do a lot of GDKPs with my alts.
Yeah, I primarily have been doing guild raids on my main tune, but I have been getting into GDKPs as I can. The hardship with getting into GDKPs is if you're a fresh 70, you need to have the resources or the connections, I guess, to get into those runs in the first place. And so I've definitely had quite an experience trying to get caught up on my warrior on benediction, because I don't have any of those things. I hit 70 on this warrior, and it's like, ideally I would be doing GDKPs. I don't have a guild on the tune yet, but I also don't have the gold for GDKPs and no logs. So people are like not even letting me into Curazian runs yet. But
yeah. Well, I feel like warrior's probably the hardest one too.
Yeah, probably.
No, I'd say rogue is the hardest one to get in, because like my warrior is starting to pump now. Like I'm up to like 800 some armor pen, and like I'm really starting to pump. Like it's so, even as a buyer going on a lot of these runs, like I'll go to a ZG as a buyer and be the #1 DPS. You know, it's just like.
Well, the nice thing about it, is you can get caught up super easily on warrior when it comes to gearing with, if you have the professions for it, blacksmithing and engineering, you can really make most of your gear by it if you have the gold for it.
Yeah, especially the good catch-up weapons. But with how much are arena points you're getting right now per week, like 2 weeks of just bad games, and you can have both season 3 weapons, and boom, like that's a huge jump for a warrior. So rogue is still like, you know, they don't want to take more than one. Like you're not really doing a whole ton, like unless you have glaives and or just really geared, like you're not really doing a ton as a fresh. So rogue's been a little rough for me, but
I forgot about the rogue problem.
I could give you the link after this, but Benediction has a huge GDKP server where you sign up there. It's actually really nice. Like they run about, it's like 8 to 12 different runs every day of the week. It's crazy. A little overwhelming at the start, but whatever.
There's so many people that play there for sure.
So you've been just basically, like, if you're not doing GDKPs for cash to get cash, what have you been doing for cash? You've been doing dailies and stuff like that?
Yeah, dailies and stuff like that. And then navigating the few and far between main spec, off spec runs for the most part for gear on the tunes outside of the guild, which I feel like is kind of an ethical way of trying to get gear. It can be difficult, especially at the end of TBC, because the quality of the main spec off spec runs can vary quite a bit, but that's kind of what I've been having, or SR, you know, things like that. But it's been good.
Yeah, I've been doing SR runs, but I've just recently had enough gear to where they'll take my warrior, like, because most of the SR runs do a gear check in the middle of chat before you get to go, and so I've just recently been able to get in those, and those are nice, but at the same time, you don't get paid at the end too. So I don't know. I kind of go with whatever I could find, really, because on both...
The bonfires are good right now if you haven't done those. So if you do them at max level, it's about, I think, 600 gold. If you just run around and touch all those bonfires on a max level tune, then do that on all of them. Adds up.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you do just Outland, I think it's like 300 gold per... And then, like, you get less gold, I think, in the old world. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I remember doing all the Outland ones the last time because it was just so fast to fly to each of them and just do it really quick. But yeah, I didn't get all of the Azeroth ones done. I got close to all of them done, but then it ended before I didn't know it was going to end.
Yeah.
What else have you been doing TBC side, Duranasaur?
Raiding full time. Our guild this week, I was on the bench this week, just like normal bench rotation. But our guild is committed to speedrunning Sunwell every single reset for the rest of TBC. We've just basically said, hey, we know that you guys have money, like the gold to use and all the consumes you need to be using. Why don't we just speedrun every week? So this past week, they actually got the 17th fastest run on NA. So
wow,
they're pumping. I was super bummed I wasn't there. I was in the middle of like a 4.5 hour Sunwell Plateau GDKP that was not going well. But it's cool. They're like, that's a fun thing to do. I love speedrunning, so I'm excited. Next week I'll be in, and we'll just keep doing that. And then I do some GDKPs. I'm gearing up a second hunter. I spent like 15K gold buying some gear on it earlier this week, and I still have probably more gold than I need to spend. And then lots of season mastery. Like, we've been pushing the hard modes in AQ40. So for anyone who doesn't know, AQ40 in season mastery, the way they're doing it is you can do it like the normal way, as it was kind of back in like 2020 when it came out in Classic, or you can activate these hard modes that add additional mechanics to a bunch of the bosses, and in exchange you get more loot off the bosses. So our guild has been, this past week we decided, hey, we're just going to push progression of the hardest mode, hardest difficulty. And so we were in there for about 3.5 hours, and we cleared through twins on the hardest mode. We just have like Oro, Viscidus, and Cthulhu left for Tuesday. So
nice.
That's been fun.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I've just been doing SR and GDKP runs. You know, just doing. Still haven't really like done a whole ton in our arena. I just keep getting points, keep wanting to do something, but it's just such a time commitment to get good. Like Zai Reed did come in and like give me some twos coaching, which was really good. Like, so like the guy just teaches really well. I mean, the way he explains things, I'm like, damn, other people have explained that exact thing to me, but now I get it. Like, you know, it's like, it's just, it's been cool, but there's just too much going on. Prep for Wrath and everything else. Like, I just don't think arena, like, I have a good time doing it, but I don't think it's something I'm going to be looking to actually get good at. So, yeah, that's been about it.
Yeah. I keep thinking like, oh, I need to get like max level in the beta and test out more stuff. But then it's like, oh, I've got like multiple characters I'm rating on in TBC. I've got season mastery, and it's just like there's a lot going on. Even if I didn't have Wrath beta, I feel like I would be very busy still.
Yeah.
Just doing all the prep and everything.
I almost feel like the Wrath beta was getting it was kind of bittersweet a bit, because I'm like, oh,
double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's like when you need to do like work that needs to get done, but you play. That's what the Wrath beta feels like, because it's all going to go bye-bye. It feels like play.
Yeah.
Whereas the other feels like, doing TBC and prep feels like I'm doing something for the future. And there's going to be a lot of gold needed in the very beginning. Glyphs are going to cost a fortune. Not only just the gold sinks, with the rings and the cold weather flying and your dual spec, but just resources are going to cost a fortune at the start. And so so there's just so much. It's a little overwhelming, but I'll take that over underwhelming, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
All right, well, how about raid? What have you guys been up to? Like I know so your guild, Silver, we were going neck and neck. We dropped Muru like a day before you or something like that, and then you dropped KJ like a day before us. So we were like neck and neck the whole time.
Yeah, we had quite the experience with Muru, as a lot of guilds did. Getting that down was quite the effort, but yeah, it's been pretty smooth outside of that. And we've been clearing now, full clearing, getting some pretty good gear too for people. So it's been good. Yeah. So we're clearing Sunwell. We're still not on a 1 night clear yet. We have just like a couple hours devoted to raid on the nights that we do raid. So we're still doing 2 nights for Sunwell on that main tune, but yeah, it's been good. So I think our plan is kind of to address that need for gold going into Wrath, and the fact that most of us, we've cleared Sunwell, we've done the thing. So we're kind of looking towards Wrath. People are in the beta doing all the different things that they're doing to prep. I think we're planning to do a few more weeks of standard raiding with our current loot system, and then maybe do something where we open it up to doing GDKP runs and stuff like that towards the end, which will kind of allow the raid team collectively to get their gear, but then also go get some gold, get some prep for Wrath, which I kind of like the sound of that, and taking a little bit of a break before Wrath gets here so we're not completely burnt out on Sunwell.
That's a good idea. Our guild had kind of floated the idea of maybe the BT runs and stuff, and the Mount Hydra runs, maybe GDKPing like 5 buyers in, you know what I mean? Like type of deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can be a good thing. Give everybody a break too.
Sunwell though sounds like Duran said he did a Sunwell GDKP, and that sounds horrendous. Like I'm just like I've thought about jumping in one. I'm like, no.
I mean, you'd be surprised. Sometimes I will say, I feel like across the board in TBC, my experience has been GDKPs tend to be smoother than non-GDKP runs. And it's because everyone is equally as motivated to get that gold at the end. So they're coming prepared. And that's usually written into the contract almost. It's like, if you're not full consuming, you're not popping all these things, we're checking the logs. And I mean, sometimes when you're doing more casual runs or pug runs where they're not checking for those things or it's not required, there's less on the line, people will slack a little bit. So GDKPs, I do feel like for the most part are smoother than standard runs, but you can get into some really scuffed ones regardless. I mean, that's just everything.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a like on this server that I have, anyone I've ever been on has been just amazing. Like we don't even wipe once. Like I haven't tried a Sunwell on there, but that's why Sunwell just scares me because it's a whole nother level. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's why.
The one that it was the first one I've ever done. And I looked up the logs from their previous runs, and it was last minute, right? Like, so I learned I was on the bench on like Tuesday. And so I signed up for one on Thursday. I signed up for like 6 that were happening on Thursday because that's my normal raid night. And I got into one of them and I looked at the logs, and the farthest they had ever cleared was through Felmist. So I was like, okay, that's where my expectations are, I guess. Like, I'm going to be in there for a few hours. We're going to hopefully kill 3 bosses. We got to Felmist around like the hour and a half mark. And then we wiped to Felmist like over and over and over again. And we were like 5 or 6 attempts in. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're not even going to kill Felmist.
That was so hit and miss with the air phase, dude. Oh my gosh. We have problems with that every week.
Yeah. And so eventually someone else took over the like breath calls completely. They were like, just let me do it. And the raid leader was like, fine, you do it. And then we kill Felmist like 1 or 2 attempts after that. And in my mind, I'm like, that's it. Like, we're done. Like we're going to Twins, but like, that's not going to happen. We get to Twins. We do like the first attempt on Twins, and it actually goes like pretty well. And then we come back in and we kill it the second attempt. And I was just like, okay, like, and they're like, all right, go into Muru. And I was like, okay, like,
come on, guys.
Twins was a fluke. We get to Muru. We put in 1 attempt. We get to second phase in that first attempt and we wipe, and then we kill it the second attempt. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't know. And then we went to KJ and we wiped like 3 times. And at that point we were like at the 4-hour mark, and the raid leader was like, we can't go any longer. So, so it ended up being decent. I ended up making like 3K gold from that, which is okay. I was kind of doing the math because I was like 3K gold and like 4.5 hours. That's okay compared to like, I'll do like a BT that's like 2 hours or less and can make on average like 2K gold. So it's like,
or like a ZG that's like, about an hour long and you make about 780, 850, type of deal.
Yeah. And like the amount of consumes I spent in that Sunwell was pretty gross too. But there's also always the chance that there's the chance that like there was gear that dropped that I bid on, and it's like if I had gotten it for the right price, then like that's loot. That's good. So but yeah, I don't know. Sunwell GDKPs still scare me.
But you are in a guild now though, right? Like you do guild.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just benched this week. I've been trying to find, because I have a pretty geared enhancement shaman, so I was trying to find Sunwell GDKPs on that character for a long time. And what I came to realize was that a lot of like the allure of enhancement shaman has kind of gone away after like going into Sunwell. Like they're, instead of guilds wanting to bring like 2 or 3 enhancement shamans, there's guilds that are bringing like 1 enhancement shaman.
And 4 resto shamans and no elemental shamans, and yeah. Well, for us, the last week you heard on the pod, like we thought we were the baddest guild ever. We went through just we like one shot twins, we one shot Brutalis, we one shot Muru. We dropped KJ for the first time in 3 attempts, and we ended in 2.5 hours. We were like, oh, we're badass. But then we went into this week.
Oh, no.
And we wiped a ton on a bunch of, I don't think we one shot one boss. We might have one shot Brutalis. I can't remember, but it was a pain. Twins bugged out and got our tanks like a good 3 different attempts. I think even the attempt that we beat them on, they got our tanks once, so we were able to like recover. Like it's just like that fight is so buggy with giving the tanks the
conflag.
Yeah, conflag. Yeah,
it's the worst.
And then like, but we still ended up one nighting it, killing KJ on the final attempt. Guys, this is the last attempt, and we ended up dropping the last attempt. Yep. So we've been able to one night it twice now, which is crazy. We were able to one night it with so many wipes. Like it's just like it's nuts. And like if you wipe on certain bosses, like wiping on twins is horrible. Like it's such a long walk. Yeah.
The worst. Yeah.
But we're feeling pretty good about it. We did go in and then we did like a crazy alt run of BT and Mount Hyjal, and I got to take my warrior all through BT, and then I did have to take my lock to Mount Hyjal for the first 3 bosses, but I got to come in for the last 2 to get to grab my tier. So, but Mount Hyjal, we actually ran with 3 main locks and 2 alt locks, so 5 locks.
Oh man,
some fast trash right there, like some fast trash. So
as fast as it can be, right?
Yeah. So that was actually not that bad, but we did have a whoops. We had two whoopses. We bugged out. We were like, well, with this many locks, we got this. We're just gonna fight phase 1 on the ad spawn, right?
Oh yeah.
No.
Well, yeah. On the it was the 7th or the 8th spawn, we had a few deaths, and then we just started to kind of pull back. We feared one of the mobs so that everybody could run back. And then when we killed that mob, it bugged out. We were like, oh man. So we're like, okay, well, we're just gonna do this the normal spot, and then we were good from that point. But then on the what's the boss that's not stuns casters, but silences casters? A big old dude, got a big tail, 4 legs on the ground, 2 arms. What's his name?
It's like the 4th boss.
I think it's I think
is it Asgalor? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think
I know
so.
what you're talking about. I don't know its name. Yeah.
So we're on that boss, and we start to wipe. But like he's close, we're like, oh yeah, we got this. And then all of a sudden, everybody's just dying, and I'm over where we pull him in front of the gate, so I'm dead where all the melee died. So I couldn't really see what was going on, but I believe only 1 paladin and 1 hunter was still up when he died. We're like, oh, thank God, because we were not going to do that again. Like,
not even close.
Oh man! So, but
that's like the worst. Yeah, Hyjal is so punishing.
Yep, but everything else went good. So, yeah. So raid went pretty good. I think that's, if anybody else wants to say anything about their. Oh, how was it without Melderon and Def Camp? You guys good?
Yeah, I mean, raid went just about like it normally does, but of course everybody missed them. You can feel their absence for sure, not being there. But we picked up a couple of people in their spots and kind of just, are trying to push forward. And
well, and neither of them were the raid leader, right? Like that would be losing. Right. That would have been a lot.
Correct. Like, yeah, the same person is still raid leading that was raid leading before. So
yeah, like I heard, like Melderon said, he was more behind the scenes, like doing a lot of other types of work. So well, that's good. Yeah. That's good. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that, you know, you guys are still good. So awesome. All right, well, let's move into time for the news. All right, so for the first part of the news, I want to give like Duranasaur, anything you want to say about Season of Mastery, but then I kind of want you to cover this because I know nothing about the Naxx testing. It looks like they're going to add some new fun goodie things to do. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So in general, Season of Mastery, right now we are on, I guess, what you would call phase 5. So people are farming AQ. There's not a lot of people left. I think that's probably when people ask me how's Season of Mastery going, like there's enough people in my guild to still raid. There's enough people for a couple of guilds on our server to still raid. But I think we're down under 5,000 active raiders across the entirety of Season of Mastery. So there's like 4 active servers, 1 PvP and 1 PvE on EU, and 1 PvP, 1 PvE on NA. So I think for a lot of players, it's they still want to raid because the raids are actually a ton of fun. I don't think I can emphasize how much I've enjoyed the raid encounters, especially Blackwing Lair and what they've done with these hard modes in AQ40. It's a blast, and I feel bad that more people are not able to try them out and enjoy them as well, because that's like it has actually been like a true blast to be able to do them. But it's just, yeah, Season of Mastery. I think that people are just like, it's too late or it's too much effort with everything going on. Wrath is coming out. Like, I think we're probably losing Season of Mastery players just to Wrath prep and stuff like that. But life goes on. Season of Mastery is continuing, and we are officially testing Naxx in Season of Mastery on the PTR. And I think the big thing to note here is that unlike the previous raid tiers, they're not changing bosses. And it's an interesting thing. I agree with it, because I think that if you take away world buffs and you have players that aren't in full BIS because they haven't been farming, you know, classic WoW raids for a year and a half before Naxx came out. We've only been playing it for like at this point like 8 months or something. Naxx is hard. Naxx is going to be plenty hard.
Yeah, that's something I'm super interested in, because I remember we had Salve Dally on 3 weeks after Naxx came out in Vanilla Classic, and he was like, well, I don't think we could do Saffron right now without world buffs. We don't even try. He was pretty sure they couldn't, you know, and like that was Onslaught, you know. So yeah, it's going to be really rough, I think. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to try to do all these bosses without world buffs. And I don't think they need to change anything about them for the challenge to be there, the mastery part of Season of Mastery to be there. But they are adding some stuff. And they have been very vague about this. So I've had to piece this together based on our PTRing experience and talking to other people that have been PTRing. And so what they have done is they added a mob to that sort of entry area, the entry circle where you like port in. And when you first get there, this mob gives you a quest, and the quest is to pick up these like stones. And so now whenever you feel any NPC though, right? Not a mob.
Yeah, it's an NPC. Okay. Sorry, that you can interact with. Yeah, so they give you a quest, and now every trash mob, every boss, they drop this new item, this like stone. I can't remember exactly what they're called. I was going to try to look it up. But essentially, like they drop these, they stack up to 100, and at 100 you can combine them into like a bigger item, I guess. And you return that bigger item to this NPC, and they give you like a follow-up quest to get this like book that drops off of trash. And so you kind of go through this process of like, what are we doing? Why are we collecting these random different things? What is this turning into? And eventually you get to a point where you are basically going to this NPC and you are exchanging these like stones, these things that you've collected off trash and bosses, for different buffs and things. So you can get some items that you use and it puts a buff on you. There's stuff like you can essentially do like the Thaddeus buff. So like a positive negative charge buff. But the thing is, like, if you get that item and you use it, the only way you can actually get anything from it is if somebody else also gets it and they get the same charge as you. And then you build off each other's charge and it increases your damage and healing and stuff. But if someone else gets it and they get the opposite charge, then you can't go near that person and you can't remove the buff, I don't think, unless you die. So it's like you almost end up with like the Thaddeus charges just like running around Nax. So that's an example of like one of the things they added. They also added an item where if you use it on the corpse of like a dead trash mob or a dead boss, it gives you a buff. So if you use it on gargoyles, you get like a 200 attack power buff for like an hour. If you use it on the oozes, you get like a minus 5% total damage buff. Things like that. So they've sort of added these buffs and these items to Nax that I think is supposed to like kind of bridge the gap between no world buffs and less gear and the difficulty that Nax already has.
So you kind of pick and choose what you use the buffs on and stuff, basically.
Yeah. So it's been, eventually someone's going to have like figured out every single little buff that you get from every little thing and how to min-max it and stuff like that. But for now, it's been fun chatting with different people and testing them.
Will they though? That's the whole thing. Like Ironforge.pro doesn't say like there's only like 8,000 raiders left, right? It's not that huge pool of mines on it anymore. So it might actually be a really fun time because of less population, because it will be figured out less quickly. Maybe I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that Nax is going to be a ton of fun with these. Like, I'm not sure if I like these added buff things, because to me, it's like you are then sort of re-adding a world buff element to Nax.
But you like world buffs.
I know I like world buffs, but my thought with this Nax was it's going to be super hard. Like, we're going to have to do this bare bones, no world buffs with less gear. And it's going to be the most challenging vanilla rating I've ever done. And then we get into the PTR and it's like, well, they're just like tossing buffs and consumables at us. And it's like, well, okay, well, like, we'll see what it's like.
Didn't you recently have a YouTube video you put out? You've been putting out a bunch of new stuff on YouTube. I mean, you've got your newscast thing, which is hilarious, which cracks me up. It's great. It's like you do a lot of work on it, production value. I love it. But you did something recently on Season of Mastery. I haven't got to watch it yet, but
yeah.
Does it pertain to like kind of what we're talking about?
Kind of. We talked a little bit about Nax. T Muggsy, he is the GM of Polar, which is the top guild on John Gabar, probably the top guild in all of Season of Mastery. They were the first guild to full clear AQ40 on the hardest mode. They are been like doing a ton of PTRing on Nax. So I got him on, and I had Barrack TV, who is in the top guild on Shadow Strike, so the PvE NA server. So I had them on and we did like a whole recap of SOM from like the beginning to where we are now. And we talked some about Nax. And that's actually when you mentioned earlier, like having an open mind and being willing to have like your opinions changed. I did a video not too long ago talking about how I wish that Blizzard and the Classic team would learn from private servers and like continue pushing towards that original vanilla, like almost no changes thing.
I did watch that. I did watch that video.
Yeah. And after our conversation that we had about Season of Mastery that we had yesterday, now my opinion, I think it's not different, but I'm very much open to the idea that with future vanilla seasons, whatever they decide to do, maybe it is a good idea that they have a lot more changes and they mix things up, right? Like, T Muggsy made just a really good point that if they actually want to get a lot of players that are in the classic WoW space to try future vanilla servers, it's not going to work if they just give us the same thing over and over again. They're much more likely to get players if they mess around with it and they try new things, because people want new things.
Well, and this is what I've talked to this about with a few different like hardcore private server players, and I don't know that Season of Mastery was really that much of a failure. I mean, it was huge when it first came out, but that's what the private server crowd chases. Like back when private servers were the only thing, you're getting a lot of people that probably didn't prefer the like hardcore, you know, the very loud minority on the private servers that, you know, want certain things. Like they just chase fresh. Like private servers rarely lasted after like even into AQ. Like they want fresh. They want a world that's vibrant with a ton of different people, you know, running all over the place. And I mean, that's what they chase, you know? So I mean, honestly, like Season of Mastery for me was just the hardcore scene. You guys both did hardcore. I did it too, but I unfortunately didn't know that I was going to love it as much as I did. And I started 3 weeks late and then got into the, what is Wiki call it? The zone, the Phantom Zone. What's you call it?
Oh, the Shadow Zone.
Yeah. Where I died at level like, I don't know, level 30 something, and then like died like each time closer till I finally died at level 8. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get this done. We're going to do it slowly. And so I finally did get it done. But yeah, like you guys were both in the raid though, right? You guys like killed Rag.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's interesting because I wonder if you like, I don't know if there's a way to go back and look at the numbers for Season of Mastery, but it felt very, very popular from a hardcore standpoint. Absolutely.
Oh,
we had like 6 leveling guilds that were full.
Shout out to Bravo.
Bravo Bears. So
Best tabard of all.
Yeah.
Stand by that. Pink.
Wait, which one were you in, Silver?
I was alpha on my my warlock initially, and everyone always says that like I should have been in Bravo. I'm like, Bravo should have invited me. I just went to the first one that invited me.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Oh, it took.
Lady found me, and she was like, "Bob, got you." She just nabbed me up.
To be fair, Bravo was like the slowest one to get going on like launch day. Like I feel like Alpha and Charlie, and even like Delta were all up and running way before Bravo was. And I had like joined one of them, even though I had committed to be like ahead of time. Everyone made their own guild, like the different guilds. And they were like, yo, you're going to join us, right? You're going to play with us, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll be a Bravo bear for sure. And then like launch comes out and like 2 hours into launch, I'm whispering the people who were supposed to get it set up. And I'm like, what are we doing? And they're like, we just don't have the money yet. We haven't gotten it going. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go join Alpha. So I was in Alpha for a while before it got up and running. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't think that Season Mastery like failed or anything. I think that it came out at a rough time and that over time, they lowered the barriers to entry, right? They made it more and more accessible to the average player, but I don't think the average Classic WoW player even necessarily knew they were doing that or had like at that point had the drive to do it. Because by the time BWL came out, it was like, okay, we're going to make leveling even faster. We're going to make it easier to farm consumables. We're going to add extra loot off of raid bosses. Like they did a lot of stuff to try to help get players to like either stick around or come into it. And I think it might have just been a bit too little too late. But if they take those ideas and maybe apply them to the next season, it might help. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think it was just a really soon for a lot of the people that are doing TBC at the moment. And, you know, but yeah, if they could learn from it, I've enjoyed watching it. Like luckily I get to live vicariously through you stream lots of it too, which has been great. So
trying to keep it alive.
All right.
If anyone wants to play.
I'm still in hardcore elite, just haven't done anything with my 2 characters that are in there. But yeah, I don't know how you guys did dungeons, because like it was enough just like working up, and then the thought of going into five-man dungeons after watching so many weeks of Fs and chat, like it was. I was just like there was too much fear there. Like I just couldn't do it.
I think it helped that a lot of us had those experiences from before, because like Duran and I had both been playing hardcore for years at that point. And so a lot of us were able to group with people that we knew and we had navigated, you know, during our first dungeons. Because I feel like there's always been a misconception that dungeons are more lethal than the open world. But in actuality, I feel like less people die in dungeons. Of course, they're memorable deaths when they do happen. And we all know I have had my struggles in stockades, which we're not going to talk about tonight. But outside of those situations, a lot of times when you go into dungeons, it's very strategic. You're going in with a team of people that you can trust, and everyone's taking it so seriously. And then if you have the luxury of being a DPS in those groups, your life is a little less compromised, which it felt kind of good for me going in as a warlock this time around, because in the past I'd been, you know, tanking on a rep paladin and doing all these things where I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this. So
it was one of the coolest things about the hardcore challenge in Season of Mastery is every dungeon group that I got in was just unbelievable. Like just nice people, helpful people, talkative people. We're always in Discord, like working together. I mean, it was fantastic grouping, like the best pugs I could have ever possibly thought to have had. I mean, and then like, I remember we did Moradon once, right? And man, it was a scary endeavor that night. We like wanted to get all the quests done, but we went like the opposite way we probably should have went. We went in, forget which side. It's the lower side. So we ended up having to work our way back. But then we missed one of the guys, the little invisible guys. Yeah, you gotta get like 4 or 5 of them. So the first problem we ran into is we ran into those mobs that are like right when you get into the room where you drop down and you fight the centaur boss at the end of that like hall. Right up there at the top, and then these mobs that knock you down, and they knock everybody down. And we ended up pulling a pack with 2 of them, and like it was nuts. Like I'm over here like blinding things. Our paladin bopped our warrior tank with like 3 health left. Our warlock almost died. Like, and everybody at the end was like, oh, okay. Does anybody need to just like take a little short, like 2 minutes, just break, just to breathe here? You know, and like that was just halfway through the night. Then we got through the entire dungeon, realized we had missed that quest, but everybody like wanted the quest. But to get out, everybody could hearth, but they were like, well, I think if we all leave and the instance goes for 5 minutes, it'll reset on us. Someone needs to stay. So I'm like, well, hey, me and the rogue can stay. And there was this other rogue. He's like, I'm not staying. I was like,
he's ready to go.
I was like, all right, well, then I'll stay and I'll meet you guys at the front. They're like, meet us at the front. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to stealth back to the start while I wait on you guys, because you guys are going to have to come all the way back from where your hearth is at. And they were like, they thought it was crazy. I was on stream and I was just like, I just stealthed all the way back. Cause like in vanilla, I used to run stealth runs on like Elbers, Blackrock with like a rogue and 2 druids, 1 tank, 1 healer. And we like, that's how we got all our prebis back in the day. So I was just like used to distracting and getting by. So like they thought I was a crazy man, but yeah, I met them at the front. We got the quest done, but it was an epic. Like I won't forget that for a long time. You know?
Yeah, it's amazing how much some of those memories will sear into your mind, because at the end of the day, you know it's a game, but your adrenaline gets going so much when you have so much on the line. I remember I had a similar experience in Sunken Temple. This was not during Road Strag, but back just and doing hardcore leveling prior to that. And I was on a warlock, and we went to do Oriana Case. And for some reason, no one in our group, including myself, had done Sunken Temple in years. Nobody remembered that threat drop mechanic that happens when you go in and you pull, and now it's not going to be on that person anymore for the rest of the fight. And so I remember the boss was orange to me, and I'm on a warlock, and I ended up tanking the boss the whole time in a hardcore run. And like, when I say my heart was racing, I had to like sack my void, Feldom, sack another one. I'm draining life. I bandaged, health potted, and nobody died. But I definitely, little things like that, you know, you don't forget them for sure.
Oh yeah, man. It's like, it's just awesome. I actually, your guys' first run into Molten Core, Gray's had this heart rate monitor, and I had to get that from like, I grabbed it that day. And it was hilarious seeing like where your heart goes when you're about to die, and just making the right choices. And like, oh man, it was a good time. Yeah. But I don't know if it's like,
it just makes me want, man, I really hope we get official hardcore servers. It would be such a blast.
It would be a blast.
That would be cool to see. Yeah.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on to a little bit of Wrath news. So they quickly changed this, but it came up. I don't know if anybody knows about this, but late in Wrath, your quest log basically changed, and it changed to basically kind of questy. I mean, it didn't look the same as questy, but it would show you the region where you needed to go for different quests. And, you know, it led you around very similar to Questy does nowadays. And they came out and said that they weren't going to add that to Wrath. And then they quickly came out the next day and said, oh no, that was an old interview. We are going to add that. It's just something the team's still working on. How do you guys feel about this quest helper?
So I haven't played Wrath before, so this will be my first time experiencing it. Yeah, the way I was reading the Bluepost, it just seems like almost a little bit of an oversight, like an old interview was used to inform that first one, and then they quickly were like, hey, this is out-of-date information. Like we were talking about earlier, I do feel like people appreciate some help with questing. It seems like for the most part, seeing the opposite of that, people not having access to anything to help with in the beta seems to be a point of frustration. So I think people were relieved to see that they are going to be implementing that, was kind of the general consensus that I got. Of course, there are add-ons like Questy that will help with, you know, quest tracking and stuff like that as well, but it seems to be.
And rested XP, you know, code Duranasaur also.
Yeah, I love leveling in WoW. Like that's one of the reasons why I like doing hardcore so much. I'm a big fan of the leveling experience, but whenever someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, you like leveling so much, why are you using a guide to do it?" It's because the thing that I like about leveling is like the journey that you're on. I don't like having to figure out, okay, where is this person? Where is this thing? Where do I need to go next? Because I feel like that every time that happens, it sort of like takes me out of the game. And it slows me down, and I like moving quick. So yeah, whether or not they add it back into the game, I feel like Questy is just going to be a thing anyway, right? So if they do, awesome. I'm sure people will use it. If they don't, then an add-on is going to end up filling its place. Yeah, so I don't know how much it ultimately matters. I know that like people were upset because they were like, I remember having this thing in Wrath. I want this thing in Wrath. And I don't know if it, like, again, at the end of the day, it
was really late in Wrath. Like, I also thought I remembered Random Dungeon Finder all through Wrath, but it turns out, no, that was Cataclysm, because Random Dungeon Finder didn't come out till ICC. I just found that out by going through the patch notes for a show we did not too long ago, Wrath Changes Nobody's Talking About, like with Wiki and Hamster Wheel. It was just fun to go through and see all the changes that are like, whoa, that's a big change, but you just don't think about it. And I saw that and I was like, oh wow, huh, thought Random Dungeon Finder was in so much earlier. But I guess where I'm at from this point is, so I'm a strong proponent of, I like people to have the game that they want to have. And I do believe that the strong majority wants a quest helper type of thing. I mean, just look at the downloads of Questy and that'll tell you, what you need to know. But at the same time, easy as heck to just have it be on a toggle where you can toggle it on or off, and then people can do what they want to do. And I think that's a cool thing. Okay. And so I think that should be, if we do go on to a cataclysm or something like that, please do that for transmog. I'd like to enjoy transmog in town, but I don't want to out in the world. Like, I want to see people's actual gear. If they add the new graphics, just make it so you can toggle it. Like there's tons of retro games that come out that are that will let you toggle between the old graphics and the new. And I mean, just let us do that. And I think you make a lot of people happy, make it client side. But that's kind of how I feel about that. I do wish it was in for testing in the Wrath beta at the moment without add-ons, because I'm dying.
Yeah. I'm like 5 or 6 hours per level right now. It's slow.
Well, and I feel like in Wrath, by Wrath time, I mean, we had I forget what it was called. Now the name of it is like a service that actually backs your desktop up in the cloud. I forget the name, but it was the name of an add-on that was super used by a ton of people, and it was a quest helper type of deal. And that's basically, the interface from that is what looks like this Wrath thing is. So I'm pretty sure they were designing quests kind of with the thought that people were going to use a quest helper regardless. So I think they're even harder to discern what you're supposed to do than vanilla was. Because in vanilla, they were like, we need to make this obvious for them or they're not going to be able to do it type of deal. So, yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Anybody else have had any last thoughts on that before we move on? Okay. So the Wrath Classic beta has been moved to where you can level up to 80, and the amount of 80s is just weird to me. There's so many people that are just no lifing and already 80.
Yeah.
Is it just that easy to level up? Because there has been we kind of should talk about that.
Well, I think definitely people are using the beta for, experimenting with leveling speed. So I think that's what you're seeing a lot of, is people are looking to see what's going to be most effective for actual Wrath launch. A lot of people are pushing for server first 80 or world first 80. They're looking at 2-man dungeons versus 4 to 5-man, and, at what point you transition. So I do think that's what I've been seeing the most of, I would say, in beta testing streams, people kind of experimenting with those values and see who can push, 1.5 million out, or 1.4, and figuring those things out for launch.
Well, it does seem, I don't know if I'm crazy, but it feels like 70 to 80 is a faster process than TBC launch 60 to 70. And I don't know if that's because, I don't know, but it's amazing to me also how many different classes are able to solo dungeons. Here at the start, it's a little crazy. And I've been doing quests, and I don't know if you guys feel this way too, but it's so much easier. It's hard to die almost, it feels like, compared to if you compared it to classic vanilla,
Yeah, I think I've only died once in the Wrath beta, and it was to fall damage. So I don't think the danger level definitely isn't really there. It's tough. It's hard for me to judge because I don't really know how fast it's supposed to feel. But for TBC, we did a dungeon cleave group, and it took us 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, we did it in 3 days too.
Yeah, of playing pretty ridiculous hours.
Hours.
I could see, based on what people are doing right now in the beta, there's probably going to be like there's probably going to be a lot of people that are 80 in one play session, like 24 to 30 hours. Which I know like Progress did that, right? When TBC came out, Progress did all the stuff they did. And it was like less than 24 hours after it came out, they had actually full cleared like the 25 mans and stuff. But that was them doing, you know, going above and beyond. I'm saying like the average like degenerate player who's like fine with playing like 24 hours is probably going to get very close, if not hit 80, like when Wrath comes out, which seems very fast.
Yeah,
it seems faster than I expected to. Again, I'm not in the beta to test it myself, but just hearing conversations initially, it seemed like it would be a bit slower than TBC was the impression that I was getting. And then to see people blasting through it so quickly has been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it's been interesting too, because it seems like private servers got less and less accurate as the expansions went on, like type of deal. Like we had found some things that were a little off, you know, in vanilla, like, but then we went to TBC and there was a lot of things that were off. And now it's like, God, can we even like look at Wrath private servers to even like think about, you know, like what's what? Like there's so many things that private servers procced different things and proc different moves together that don't happen now and could be bugs early in the beta, but like it's just it's definitely interesting. And like I've just played a little bit and like just messing around with quests. Like I'm almost 71 without even really getting out of like Howling Fjord. Like I'm not even like out of the starting area, although I have messed around in the dungeon a lot, like there in Utgard Keep, like seeing if I could solo it, duo it, seeing if we could do the first boss with 3 people. We haven't been able to do it with just one or with just 2. Like, have you tried that? The Utgard Keep stuff?
Yeah, I put out a video because survival hunters can solo Utgard Keep and get like upwards of like 500k XP an hour, which sounds like a lot, and I thought it was a lot. That's like 3 hours per level, but then I've gotten feedback since I posted that of people saying, well, if you are able to level or if you're able to do quests and stuff without like too much competition, you can level faster than that, which that's going to be a whole nightmare, right? Like depending on what server you're on, if you're on a Faralina, if you're on a Benediction,
open world.
yeah, it's going to be awful.
Just depends on how fast the mobs spawn and stuff.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, we tried 2-manning all the way up to and killing the first boss, like me and a warlock buddy. And it's just like, it wasn't worth it because you get like, it cuts the XP in half when you add just one more person. So like, it was more worth it for me to just stay solo and not even like get all the way to the first boss, just like be in there for 15 minutes, kill as many mobs as I can, zone out, reset, go back in. Like that was more efficient than going in even with like 2 or 3 or 4 more people and like full clearing.
Well, we actually found it to be pretty good, Mel and I, doing Prot Warrior, Discipline Priest. But I don't know. I think Prot Warrior might be broke at the moment because the amount of damage I do with Revenge, like if it's crazy because it's a spec that's just kind of like Fury tanking in vanilla. Like you're only getting like, I don't know what it is, like 18 points in Prot, and then you're getting everything else in arms and getting some stuff in like at the very top in Fury, and you're just doing a ton of damage. I mean, like there's Prot tanks that are going in 5-man groups, and they end with more DPS than the rogue with glaives, and rogues now are no longer the rogues of TBC. Rogues are an S tier DPS class now, so it's just interesting for me to see. Like, so I don't know, maybe Prot Warrior is different just because I'm doing so much damage to so many mobs, like right up on me, so I can pull a bunch more with the healer.
Yeah, could be. I know there's like a video of a Prot Warrior soloing like essentially the whole dungeon and getting like over 700,000 like getting like 2-hour levels, like soloing Utgard Keep.
Was it Zatar?
Maybe.
Could be. He's using a crazy like a crazy setup to where he doesn't take damage unless he gets stunned. It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of weird shenanigans, and it's hard to know what's going to make it into the game, because there's been other stuff that I've found where I'm like, this is like really cool. This seems like kind of broken, and then I start talking to people, and they're like, that is broken. Yeah, like it shouldn't be that way. So I don't know. It could be that, because we're probably going to be in the beta for, my guess would be at least another month, and I think they're going to keep letting more and more people in. So what we have now could be way different than what we get come actual Wrath.
I think what I'm most excited for is the same thing that I loved the last time, is when we get 80 templates and we can go in and test Nax and test Sarth and test, the other dragon. I always forget his name. But yeah, I think that's going to be cool. And you group up with all the different creators. I remember last time I had the biggest blast was Josh Corbett from Countdown to Classic, and Ale and Mad Season and Willie, and we had like one guy that just wasn't a creator, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna get this out early. I love all your guys' stuff." Like he's just freaking out on us. I mean, it was great. It was good times. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and also I will quest like a madman. Just give me add-ons. Like I feel so uncomfortable and out of, especially on the warrior. Like I feel just out of sorts without all my stuff set up correctly. Like I'm probably just gonna switch to rogue until they switch stuff back. But yeah, Silver, I'm assuming you're gonna get in soon. Like you've got it, right?
Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah,
you'll know what I know, I guess.
Yeah, it's been really bizarre because I'm friends and family, and that's how I usually get in. I'm usually in like alphas, like, and so it was crazy. Like I wasn't in day one or like even week one. So they've done this rollout definitely differently than they have in the past.
Yeah, it always varies a little bit. I was in TBC beta day one. I got really lucky with that. So waiting a little bit longer this time, but hopefully I'll get in eventually. And in the meantime, like I said, I'm tuning in, seeing what everybody else is seeing. I guess I'll let you guys, figure some things out, and I'll soak that in from your streams. And then I'm, getting caught up with TBC stuff still. So
yeah,
all good.
It's honestly almost a blessing. Like I think the people that really needed to be in are the people that make like YouTube guides and stuff. Like Guide MMO has been doing, him and Scotty J have just been doing some awesome stuff. Guide MMO just takes questions from chat and just tests stuff. And he's been doing this whole series like every day. And I just like, every day I'm just like, oh, what is it going to be today? Like I'm so excited, but I don't know.
I will say I've been learning Prop Paladin in TBC, and we're talking about having me mean that in Wrath sync for the guilds, and I would love to test that in Wrath because there are so many changes to Prop Paladin between TBC to Wrath, and I think most of it is for the better, a lot of quality of life changes, but I would love to kind of play through that, experiment with some of the dungeons and stuff, because I know you guys were talking about figuring out what's going to be most effective for leveling, and I think time will tell, and there may be some changes to some of the things that we've seen so far with the beta. In TBC, we did 5-man dungeon cleave, and we're thinking about doing something similar for Wrath. Although people are saying, as it stands right now, if you do a 5-man cleave, you're gonna, hit your lockout cap pretty quickly because people are 2-manning and able to do it. So we'll see if they make some changes to that. But I would love to get in there with some of the other people that we're looking at cleaving with and feel out those numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems like the test. Seems like the 5-man cleaves are running about like at the really amazing end, like 6.5, 7 minutes to like 10 minutes. So like I'm guessing like the 4-man cleave would probably be the way a lot of people are going to go if they're going to go that route. But it looks like there's a lot of different ways. So yeah, it'll just be, it'll just be nice to keep checking it out. All right, so the next thing, I don't know if we really want to talk about it, but it's just it's kind of like the thing they did for TBC where Taryn Gregory talked about creating the Black Temple and all of that. This is a developer behind the scenes video called Building Azeroth Northrend, and I will link it in the show notes for anybody who wants to check it out. But did you guys check it out at all?
I saw the post. I didn't get a chance to watch the video.
It's just a cool thing where they go through, show you like how they design certain zones and stuff like that. It's just kind of interesting. I thought I'd throw it in just for anybody that wants to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This next one is spicy. Okay, so last week, we had a ton of people on. We had Yip, the GM of Varg, Harskar. We had Def Camp, Melderon, Mel, me. It was like a crazy, crazy episode. And one thing that Harskar brought up when we were talking about, you know how they came out with that whole 3D design pillars that they're using for Wrath, like the world is the main character and stuff of this sort. Well, Harskar brought up Yip first brought up this is just weird for Wrath, right? And Harskar brought up, well, lots of people are thinking that basically Wrath is going to branch off and become its own thing with either new expansions or heavily changed like Cataclysm type of deal. And this next piece of news kind of makes that seem even more of a reality. So Blizzard Entertainment basically has acquired the Spellbreak development studio Proletariat. I should have looked out how to say this. Proletariat. It's got a bunch of people from like old companies like Turbine, Harmonix, Insomniac, and so this is like 100 people coming over to the WoW team. So a ton more help on WoW. They don't specify classic or retail, but this could mean that after Wrath, we're looking at a whole new timeline that's in a classic feel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tinfoil hat. Like, it sounds like, how would you feel? Like, even Melderon said, if that was something they did, I would probably come back for that. Like, how do you feel about them? Basically, there's retail people, like, they can have their game, but we like branch off to a more classic type of environment going forward. How would you feel about that?
I'll let Silver. Do you want to go first?
I will say I can see, hope for that in that post. I can also see there's, I guess, time will tell if that indicates that we're moving in that direction. But I will say, I think for the most part, I've heard so much from the classic community that Wrath for them in a lot of ways was the highlight or the peak of all of their WoW expansion experiences. And for those of us who have all played through these classic expansions, I think there's a little bit of a sentiment of this is almost like the final stop in that journey, but we don't want it to be the final stop, right? So that Definitely. Conversation of what comes next and what does that look like? And I think there are a lot of opinions about that. And so any prospect that there might be some additional team members coming in or, these big things could be happening, I think that's exciting to think about and what that could look like. I think it's a conversation worth having because I do think feedback sometimes does help shape the directions that we move in. And I remember when they were officially announcing Wrath, they did say, we'd love to hear what do you guys want to see next. And so I do think it's worthy of having that conversation, even if we know that's not necessarily what they're working on just yet. Who knows? But
yeah, I feel like of all the ideas with like what to do after Wrath, the one that I tend to lean towards, and the one that you hear a lot of people just like, they just throw it out there. They're just like Classic Plus. This idea of like, start back in vanilla or, whether it's starting there or starting off of the end of Wrath, like give us new content in the systems and in the game as it was. And if that's where this is going, then I think there's going to be a lot of very interested people. it's hard to know how well it'll actually end up being. But I do love the idea of, hey, we've played through vanilla, we've played through TBC, now we're playing through Wrath. Why don't we go back to vanilla? And we messed around with Season Master, we did all that stuff. But what if we just add new raids? What if we add new dungeons? What if we adjust talents? What if we basically take this like base game and the systems within it that everyone likes, and we change it and try to improve upon it, and then from there we like continue that new journey in sort of like a WoW 2 base, but like with that framework of what we got back with original vanilla. Like, I think this is all like massive speculation way out there, but everyone talks about Classic Plus. I feel like I watched a lot of different Classic streamers, people who play really hardcore, people who play really casually, and there's so many people, like, it just gets brought up all the time, like Classic Plus. Yeah, obviously, like, that'd be fun. We don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means, but why not? Like, try it out. And I think that would be, if that's where this is going, it will at least be really hyped up, and I think a lot of people will be really interested in it.
Yeah, well, that's what, like, when I saw this news, that's what makes me just go, holy crap. Like, that amount of people is a huge upgrade to the development power of that studio. And a lot of the people coming over have a ton of different experience in other games too, other MMO games. And so I don't know, it could be really cool. And it's like, hopefully, like, they have a lot of old school WoW players coming over in that crew. I'm hoping, like, there's
a good chance. Yeah.
Get the boomers in there, guys. Get them in there. But yeah, it just sounded interesting to me because, like, they had said that and I was like, oh, yeah, the 3 pillars kind of do make sense for, like, them developing that for future stuff. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for just Wrath to come up with this whole ideology.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a really cool thought. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, anybody have any more? Like, I mean, if it was done right, like, you would want stuff added into Azeroth, right? Like,
I think,
like, Azeroth, not like we're going to Outland, but like Northrend is kind of Azeroth still. You know what I mean? Like, it's on the map, you could see it. Like,
my question would be, is it like we're level 80 and we're moving forward from there, and that's what they're planning on? Or is it more like, hey, we run the course of Wrath, we're going to go back to vanilla, but it's not vanilla. It's, level 60, it's similar stuff, but we've adjusted talent trees. We've adjusted some of the classes. There's new dungeons. There's new open world content that you can now access. There's new raids. And at the end of that, we're going somewhere different. And maybe that's how this, like, Classic Plus thing, like, that to me is, part of it is the unknown of, like, okay, what would be the next expansion after that if they decide we don't want to do a TBC, we want to go somewhere else. Like, that's way out there, but very exciting in my mind that they could even consider doing that.
Yeah, I think it could be either one, could be the idea they have, but just thinking about them, like, actually going forward and the timeline branching off to an alternate world sounds kind of pretty neat to me. But, like, I really do think that, like, one of the biggest failures they did was not including the old world in, the new stuff. But then if you keep adding stuff to the old world, you kind of have to tear up other parts of the old world, making the leveling process different for someone starting out. But at this point, I honestly think that's okay. If you have different seasons of mastery run at different times for different people that want to relive that. But I think keeping everything in Azeroth is kind of neat, and just changing things, like the world changing, like, could be a cool thing. Like, now, this whole zone's been taken over by this new threat, and now that piece has changed. Maybe not as vast as Cataclysm was, but just little changes throughout. But I don't know. Yeah. I think getting more people on is going to be a really cool thing to just see what happens in the future. I just hope it's not like oh, we're changing retail to be more like what you remember in Classic, because I still won't. It's still too bloated for me. Like, I still won't go back to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's already happened.
Yeah, they release new talent trees and stuff for what they're working on in Dragon Flight.
So I think that it's already bleeding over. A lot of the things that people were really excited about, systems and like features that exist in the older versions of the game, I feel like are now bleeding into retail, which is cool. But again, I think I'm in the same boat as you, where it's like I don't know what it would take for me to actually jump in and try retail, but it would be a lot, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah, it's literally like it's just too bloated. Like there's just too. I see people running around on all kinds of weird stuff. The mounts, like it's just, I don't know. It's too much to like jump into after being gone since mid Cataclysm, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be. I think just the excitement for the future, you know, even if it's not for Classic, retail people could probably be pretty excited about getting some new blood in there and everything. So, you know, good on them, but I hope we get some love on the Classic side because I think we deserve it, guys. All right, any last thoughts on that before we move on? Everybody good? All right.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
Bobby, we need to have a talk about this World of Warcraft Classic. Do I look like I know what a WoW token is?
All right. This, I play that live now, and it always cracks. Like I always can't stop laughing as it's over, which is not the way it's supposed to go. But yeah, so this week's discussion is going to be getting to know Silver. Mel couldn't make it, so luckily I have an extra interviewer to help me through the process. So make sure to pipe in anytime you have any, sub questions you want to bring up, Duranasaur. But let's jump in, Silver. So we always start out by asking what your WoW background's like actual retail type of WoW. Like, did you even play retail prior to Classic, or did you ever play World of Warcraft, and how long did you play for?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go back in time a little bit to tell you how I got to playing WoW in the first place. So I will say, unlike many people who are Classic mains like myself, I didn't actually play Classic originally. Growing up, I barely had any technology. I lived in the rural South. I was outdoors, and if I wasn't outside, I was reading a book, basically. So I didn't really play games too much growing up. At one point, I got a GameCube, and I dabbled with that a little bit. But my first interaction with
GameCube?
WoW.
Did you love Pikmin?
I was a Mario Kart person.
Mario Kart, okay. I loved Pikmin. It was a little game where you threw the little plants and they did different things. Okay, but sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. So my first time ever even really hearing about World of Warcraft, I remember I was in the 7th grade, and I had an English teacher who would give us a reading assignment, and she actually had a computer set up in the corner of the room, and she played WoW while we read. And so,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding you at all. And so I didn't really think too highly of it at the time, because of course here I am, this nerdy kid. I'm like, why is my teacher not teaching me? And she's off playing in the corner of the room, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, that was 2007. She was playing the Burning Crusade in the corner of the room, and now all these years later, here I am playing it, which I just think is hilarious. But anyways, so I knew about the game, but I had never really played it. And then I actually started playing 2013, 2014. So I went off to college, and I was a science major, so I made a lot of friends who historically grew up gaming a ton. And
you're saying nerds, right?
Yeah. So I mean, so okay. Other people are going off to college, they're experimenting with whatever they're experimenting with. I'm over here with my new friends that I've made, like catching up on everything that I've missed out on, like anything you could think of. I hadn't seen Star Wars. They're having me binge watch that on Saturday nights.
Oh, yes, and then, definitely a must.
Yeah. And so gaming was one of those things. And so I remember I had this group of friends and they were a little mysterious and I didn't quite know what was going on. A couple nights a week, they would all just kind of disappear. And I'm like, what are these guys up to? Like, why am I not included? Because, here we are, we're going and doing all these things together. And then all of a sudden they're disappearing. And one day I just said, I'm like, what's happening on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Why is nobody texting me back? Like, what's going on? And they're like, okay, we need to show you something. And so
this sounds like exactly how I had to tell Mel that I was a WoW player.
Yeah.
So it's very similar.
Like it was this hidden secret, right? And so they're like, we've been playing some games. And so it turned out that they were raiding in World of Warcraft on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but also they were playing pretty much all Blizzard games at the time. So they were big Warcraft 3 guys and just Blizzard players, Diablo as well. And so I'm like, okay, well, you guys are playing these games. I haven't tried them before, but we're all friends. I want to play with you guys. So show me this. So I remember quite vividly, they sat me down to Warcraft 3 was actually the first thing that they sat me down to. And it didn't go well. It didn't go too well because I had never played that type of game before. I'm like, okay, what else are we doing? And they're like, well, here, let's show you Diablo 2. And they all played Diablo 2 hardcore. So as you can imagine, for somebody who's never played Diablo 2 or a hardcore video game, that was a little stressful. I'm sitting down and they're telling me, okay, if you die, you're done for, right? And I enjoyed it. I liked Diablo. There were some things that I didn't love as much. I felt like I couldn't see anything, and I'm terrified to lose all of my loots. I'm enjoying getting my gems and these things that are dropping off the ground, but I'm like, I don't want to lose these things once I get them. And so
if you didn't even like half of them, you didn't even know what they were. You're just like, I had no
idea, but I like this and the sounds and all this, right? It was just fun, So anyways, I'm like, okay, so what else are you guys playing? And WoW was that main thing. And so that's how ultimately I started playing WoW. I made an account to start playing with all of my friends. And this was, 2014. So this was Warlords of Draenor was the time. I think that was the expansion that I started playing in. So maybe not the best time, I guess, to come into the game as a new player. But I kind of instantly fell in love with it. So at first, I think a Hunter was the very first tune that I played. And I didn't quite know the full scope of the game. I remember we were all in voice and I'm off in Elwyn Forest, picking flowers and exploring while they're doing their raids. And they all had alts that they were leveling at the time. So we all kind of started playing together. And I liked playing Hunter, but it also wasn't the right class for me, I feel like, in the long term. And so we all started leveling up. And one of the first things that we encountered was we had no tank in the group. So all of my friends, they were healers or DPS. So we were always playing with some random fifth person that varied in skill quite a bit. And also we had to wait, to find them. And so I'm saying to these guys, I'm like, why are none of you playing a tank? This makes no sense. Why don't we have a tank in the group? And they're like, well, we don't want to do that. That's not what we want to play. I said, okay, well, I'll tank for you guys. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure you will, Silver, because here I am, a new player. I don't know the first thing about that, but I'm like, how bad can it be? I can't be as bad as some of these random people that we're playing with. And I probably was, to be honest, because I was a new player, but
that is awesome.
So that's how I started playing a Death Knight. And then that became my main all throughout retail. I fell in love with it. And that's what I played until I started playing Classic. So
it sounds like you had some really good friends, because I was just telling you, a lot of men try to get their girls, like their girls, like either their girlfriends or their actual friends, like would always try and stick them with healer, like it seems like the the thing they're like, like, and it's just like, I love it when I see girls playing tanks or DPS. I think it's the best thing ever, because it's like, no, get that stereotype out of here.
Yeah. But so I guess I really started playing in 2014, and then I played for many years through BFA, and then around that time, so probably I guess about 2018 or something like that, is when I started playing Classic more kind of in the Classic waiting room through private servers and stuff like that. And so kind of never looked back once I started playing Classic, just kind of stopped playing retail.
So, okay, that's a cool thing, because I don't know that we've had, I'm trying to think if we've had a guest on that didn't actually play, at least in TBC or Wrath, even as like a youngin. Like a lot of the guys that are big into it now were like 12, when Vanilla came out. So they didn't play at a high level.
It's always so funny because especially in this community, the Classic community, because almost everyone has. So it's always wild to me when people are like, how long have you been playing WoW? And I'm like, well, I guess it's been almost 10 years now. I'm like, which is nothing compared to everybody else, right? I'm still kind of the new kid on the scene, right? But
that's awesome. Well, okay, so you were playing retail, and I hear BFA was just a horrible expansion. So you were looking for something the same and similar-ish, and you landed yourself, like, how did you land yourself into Classic? Because Classic private servers wasn't like a huge scene. Was like some of your friends playing the Classic private servers and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I was playing retail, and obviously I loved playing WoW. I was having a lot of fun with it, but there were some things that I just didn't love about retail. And so some of those things, keeping up with garrisons at the time, or feeling like I had the best gear, but then feeling also this drive to continue grinding all of the things because something might Titan Forge, and then it's randomly somehow better than the gear that I already thought was my best gear. And I know it kind of felt like I got to a point with playing retail where it felt like I had so many chores to do, and I wanted to get back to that feeling of exploring in the open world that I first had when I started playing WoW, which I feel like a lot of people can relate to that enjoy Classic because they also feel the same way. For me, it just was by, I guess, a little bit of randomness that I had a similar start to retail with, being out in Elwyn Forest and picking flowers and stuff. And I don't know, I just kind of wanted to experience a world that felt a bit more connected. And so in describing these things with the people that I was playing with, my guild members and stuff at the time, some of them were involved with Classic private servers. And so they were like, sounds like you would kind of like Classic. And so that's how I got turned on to it. And then once I tried it, I was like, yep, I do really like this. This is the version of the game for me. And then I truly just never logged into retail again. I seriously just kind of dropped it and moved on to Classic, and was in that waiting room with everybody else until Classic officially came out from Blizz. So it was exciting when that hit. And then every expansion since, it's been my first time experiencing those releases. And that has been such a cool experience to have that Classic launch, and had been, looking forward to it. And then TBC, and now with Wrath, this will be my first time moving through it, which is a really, really fun thing.
Yep, same with Duranasaur. This is going to be his own first time going through it. Like he just saw the Warlock Summoning Stone for the first time today. Yeah, I was watching. He's like, "What's this?"
Have you seen that thing, Silver?
I don't think so. So I've been kind of watching the beta streams, and I also, it's in a sense, it's like, I know it sounds so silly because it's not a spoiler, and I did play through some of the zones in retail, right? But it's like, I'm kind of also waiting to experience it myself too. So I don't think I have seen that.
She might, I mean, it could be something that's in retail, but basically Lux will create a stone, and then from that stone, it's just like a dungeon summoning stone, like other people in the raid can summon, and you can summon right into like where you're at in the instance and stuff too now. So the locks don't have to do all the summoning. They create the stone, then they're like, all right, job's done,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the stone just like comes up out of the ground, and it's just like, it looks like, I don't know. It's sort of, I think,
like a mini red dark portal or something.
Yeah, it's very strange. It happened today, and I was like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, this is a new thing." And I was like, "This is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on."
That's awesome. Yeah, discovering stuff like that is so fun. There are always so many little things to explore.
So I think it was 2017 BlizzCon when they first announced they were going to make Classic. I think it was 2017 BlizzCon. I think so. But Yeah, I just wondered if maybe that like got you excited, because that's the first time I was like, oh well, I'm gonna try that again. Little did I know I'd make a podcast about it, but yeah, like yeah, I was just curious. But
yeah, it was before that official, like before
wow,
the official announcement.
Okay, cool. So you were
yeah, I was gonna I mean, I don't know how much we want to dive into private servers, but I'm curious which ones you played on.
Yeah. Dive in.
Yeah, so Elysium, Light, which also Light's Hope. I don't think I ever officially played Nostalrius or like played it for long. If I did, I'm trying to think back, and it's also hard for me to think back because I'm like, I guess I could ask my friends that I was playing with.
Yeah,
definitely Light's Hope.
Don't worry, Mel's the same way. She's like, did we do Sarth 3 Drakes? I'm like, yes, you got the mount.
Yeah. I also try to remember what I played on those private servers in Classic. I think it was Rogue and maybe a little bit of Priest, but I don't know. It's like so distant in my memory.
Yeah. Those were very good time. Like, I feel like if you were going to like dip your toe in it, those are great servers to be able to jump onto.
Yeah, they were like so much
fun.
And then I had a lot of the experiences that people had initially, I feel like, but having friends that were playing and we're going through STV and we're like actually fighting our way through STV and Classic on those servers. Like, it was just so much fun.
Oh man, yeah, dude. Phase 2, never forget. But so okay, so out of the expansions you have played, what is your favorite so far?
It's tough to say. I mean, Classic, like I said, was such an exciting thing for me, and I feel like I'll always have such a fond place in my heart for just Classic launch. But moving into TBC was a lot of fun because that was the first time that I had a large community of people to play with. I knew some people in Classic, and I obviously met people through Classic, but I started streaming midway through Classic. So once I got into TBC, there were so many more people that I knew to play with, and that made for such a unique expansion and experience, just having people to level with and doing all of those things. So I will say, I haven't played TBC throughout. It's had its ups and downs. I played Season of Mastery for a while, and I stopped playing TBC because I was all in on Season of Mastery. But overall,
phase TBC, 1 was pretty rough, right? I mean,
yeah, right. So I had such a fun start to it, and then the guild that I was in disbanded, and so that kind of played a role too. But I know overall, I've had such a good experience with both Classic and TBC. I have a suspicion that Wrath will end up being my favorite once I play it, just because I've heard people speak so highly of it. But
it's
also
my favorite.
In some ways, it might be Copium, but I feel like one thing that was unique to Classic that I feel like wasn't there as much in TBC was connectedness of the community. And so while I think Season of Mastery was such a cool thing, I do feel like in Classic, everyone that was interested in Classic was playing Classic in a lot of the same places. And then moving into TBC, there was a little bit of a division between people who main TBC and then went on to main Season of Mastery content. And so it kind of split the communities that I played with up in a way, because, everyone that was interested in Classic content, some of them were more interested in TBC, some were more interested in SOM. And I feel like moving into Wrath, all of that Classic community is kind of coming back together. And a lot of people that may have quit throughout TBC or SOM are coming back for Wrath. And so I'm really excited about that, regardless of some of these issues of server populations and the mega servers. The bright side of that is everyone is playing together. That's why when we were talking about where we're playing our tunes, it's like, yeah, you're probably on, Fairlina or Benediction, and we could group up together, which is such a cool feeling, because I feel like that wasn't always the case at different points of, TBC. So it's an exciting time heading into Wrath.
I mean, there was a ton of streamers and stuff on Fairlina, but there was a ton of, creators across all the different servers. That's why I thought the TBC TBC beta was so neat because all these different guests I'd had on, I was actually able to play and raid with them and stuff, which was
it's great all being
neat.
in the same place. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yep. Well, Horde or Alliance?
So this one's tough because I always mained Alliance. Always. Until TBC when I started playing Horde. And so I've been Horde ever since for the most part. I will say at the end of the day, I feel like I am an Alliance main deep down. I don't know what it is. It's just, that was the first thing that I played in WoW back in the day. It kind of feels right. But I do main Horde for the most part nowadays. So I play both. And I will say, I feel like it's important to play both Horde and Alliance. I feel like some people just, anybody that's really passionately on one side or the other, you've had the experience of playing both. So I guess I'm still in that experience. I've played Horde for all of one expansion, so I won't quite say that I'm a Horde main yet, but time will tell. We'll see.
That's fair.
I mean, mud huts and, everything's so stinky.
Okay.
And I like
nice.
I like indoor plumbing, so I'm Alliance.
Did you ever go on vacation? You're just hanging out in a bungalow. It's just, it's nice. It's a good time.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, I played Alliance in original vanilla, then TBC through Kata, I was Horde. But the only way I was able to get Mel to go Horde starting in TBC was because of Blood Elves. So do you play any character besides a Blood Elf?
I've mained Orc until recently.
Good, nice.
Yeah, so I've been playing as Orc. I think my first Horde tune was Undead. That's probably my preference on the Horde side. I like to be Undead. But with rolling my main for TBC, the Orc racial was so strong, and I don't mind playing as the Orc. So I went with Orc for PvE racial. And then I just actually made a Blood Elf for the first time. I had never played Blood Elf, but planning to play Paladin on the Horde side, moving into Wrath. Blood Elf, got to do it. So I made a Blood Elf, and it's been fun. It definitely is different than playing Orc or Undead, but I've been enjoying it so far. I think the only Horde that I haven't played really is Troll. Don't know that I ever really will play a Troll either. I think that's the one
Duranasaur.
for me.
I love my trolls.
Female
troll is
we'll
best.
Let you have the female trolls.
She's beautiful.
Oh, we used to have this guy in our guild that played a female dwarf, and I was like, God, you're ugly. And he's like, if you tell me I'm ugly one more time, I'm leaving raid. I'm like, oh, you're so pretty.
It's not even that. My issue with trolls, it's so specific, but in Classic, being a plate wearer and then seeing these trolls wearing their plate boots and their toes are sticking out of them still, it's just didn't sit well with me, and I've never been able to forget it. So
the troll feet, come on.
Yeah, the feet.
They're so good. They're amazing.
Yeah, I'm not super hard into either of them. I've played them both, but I gotta try and be Alliance, a little bit over the top on Alliance, just because that's what I'm playing now, and all the Horde bias. You know what I'm talking about?
Horde bias.
Oh, now that Alliance have good racials, we're gonna need to take them out of arena. Okay.
Oh, I guess. I mean, yeah, you got a point.
So all of a sudden they just start talking about it. I was like, honestly, racials probably should have just been out of arena from the TBC start. I do think it's a good change, but I'm just like, why are you thinking about it now? It's like, after I've been waiting with all my human characters for this entire time, why now? But yeah,
you had perception. Come on.
It's definitely good for my rogue. But yeah, so all right, well, let's talk about your content, because you talked about you started streaming about halfway through. What was it? Okay, so I mean, kind of start us with the journey. You can probably tell it best. When did you think oh, I'm gonna stream type of deal? Was it the first time in Classic?
Yeah, I didn't really. So I had tuned in to streams a little bit as a viewer, and I didn't really have any plans on streaming, but I was at the time leading a guild in charge of looting and raid leading and all of that stuff. And someone in the guild suggested, hey, it would be kind of nice if we're absent on certain nights or whatever to be able to see a POV in the raid. No one in our raid team streamed, and they were like, Silver, you should do it because you're doing all of the loots and we think you would be good at it. And I'm like, okay, you guys think I would be good at streaming. Good one. I actually thought that they were kidding at first because I'm pretty introverted. I don't know. I guess I talk a lot when I'm comfortable with people, but for the most part, I am really an introvert. And so just speaking into the void with people watching me, just something about it. I was like, I'm not sure that I would be good at this or I would enjoy it. But I'm like, it's not that hard to throw on a stream and showcase the raid. I'm like, sure, I can do that for you guys. And so the initial stream that I did were purely for that purpose. It was for my raid team, and that was pretty much all there was to it. And I remember before I streamed for the first time, it was this concept of this is going to be something we'll look back on and we'll laugh at because I'm probably going to do this twice and then I'm out of here. And surprisingly enough, they were right. I enjoyed doing it, and people seemed to enjoy watching the stream. And so I kind of upgraded the equipment. I moved from my, gaming headset to an external mic. Yeah, my Yeti mic that I brought out actually for this interview, the old one, but I got some upgrades and kind of kept with it. And then I was basically at the beginning really just streaming the raid content. I was doing a little bit of alt leveling, so I started streaming that to ease into other streaming outside of raid content and get more so into the type of streaming that I still do, which is like we call just chatting with buttons, where, classic WoW, it's very much so driven by conversation that's happening. If you're out in the open worlds, there's not as much going on. And so I started doing some alt leveling and things like that. And then a couple months into streaming, I participated in a hardcore leveling tournament, which at the time with the hardcore challenge, there was no add-on or anything. So it was encouraged that you stream that. And so I remember that's the first time that I met a lot of the people that I still know and talk to in the community, because they were also participating in that tournament that day. And so I was streaming that as well. Yeah, so that's how it all kind of started up.
Interesting that you say, because I stream pretty regularly now, but I was never comfortable with it at all until I did the hardcore challenge, and I wanted every bit of it to be documented. Even though they had the add-on, I wanted it to be documented. And that's what actually got me comfortable with just streaming all the time, And so like now I stream all the time. But it's interesting that you say you're an introvert, because I've tuned into your stream quite a bit, and you're telling stories, you're talking to chat, you're answering questions. I mean, I think what makes a streamer amazing, and I'm horrible at this, especially in like a raid. Like I even have a sign that says, I'm sorry, I'm not good at talking during raid. Like just because that's a skill, like, but you seem to just do it easily. So it's interesting you say you're an introvert, but on stream it feels like you're extrovert? I just totally lost my train of thought there, but it seems like you talk really well and you're very engaging.
Yeah, and so I think that's a skill that you can refine over time. And being introverted doesn't necessarily mean you can't talk to people a lot. It just sometimes means it takes more out of you. So kind of recharging alone. And so that's been one of the things that I've navigated as I've, continued to stream and then ultimately shifted into full-time streaming, has been striking that balance between putting in massive amounts of hours of talking and playing this game that we love and all of this, and then also taking time for myself as a person, off stream and recharging. That's definitely something I think a lot of people can relate to.
Not like
have that introversion piece in stream.
Guessing, for instance, something like, not paying attention to Discord, like, not like completely separating yourself for a time to recharge. I can see that. I can see that a lot.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I feel like I'm very much the same way. Yeah. Like if people knew me in real life, I think they would hands down say that I'm an introvert. But streaming it's just easier. I don't know. It's very I connect with what Silver's saying very deeply on this with this idea of like when I'm streaming, it's easy because I think part of it's because it's necessary. You know, you're filling the void, you're telling stories. But yeah, like when I'm done, like I can be done streaming and like not say another word to another human the rest of the day, which bugs my wife sometimes because she'll be like, "How was your day? What's going on?" And I'm just like, "It was fine."
Yeah, see, Mel would love it if that's the way I was, but I get off and I'm like, guess what I found out today? Stream taught me this, and they taught me this, and she's like, oh, Bob. But I'm actually a introvert too, believe it or not. This is what transforms me. I actually, I don't know if you guys watch Friends, but in college, I got the name Fun Bobby.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Bob.
Yeah. So basically, like, the reason I got that is because on campus, like, I was business, like, in class, not talking to anybody, doing my thing, business. Like, that was like college for me. So people who met me at a party where I was, like, swinging my boxers in the air, you know, the night before, and they're like, Bobby, we had so much fun, dude. We met last night. I'm like, yeah, hey. Just keep walking, you know. Like I'm actually very introverted without alcohol. It's I'm like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but yeah. So I definitely do get. And what's funny is like when we're doing Sunwell, I don't drink during like us doing that because like you know it's a hard raid. So like I'm even more so introverted. I'm like what? Okay, no. Concentrating. So it's so funny to see people pop in and be like, you're so different.
Yeah.
I think too, sometimes getting to know people online, I feel this is the conversation I was having the other day, but in a strange way, I feel like sometimes it's a little easier, especially like we were talking about, you know, that conversation of telling people that you even play games to begin with, right? It's like navigating those conversations when we're here together on Twitch or in game, we're all already sharing that piece at minimum. So it can make it easier to kind of be your authentic self versus in a day-to-day conversation in person, you might not be as primed to open up.
Oh man,
someone wants to talk to me about sports, and I'm like, yeah, I know football. That's it.
Except the Chiefs. Yeah.
I'm so bad at small talk in real life. Like I could be at like a party or at someone's house, and it's like a mutual acquaintance. And like I'm gonna flop. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad for both of us. But then on stream, it's like, yeah, we'll talk. I mean, we talk about all kinds of like random topics. Like we'll go off on tangents and just like dive into weird things. And like it just feels easier and smoother. And I think, yeah, to Silver's point, it's just like everyone that's there is there willingly, is like coming by to like see and chat and like ask and like engage with you. And it's a much different, I think, feeling than like kind of being stuck in like an area in like a room with someone. Yeah.
Well, now I have a different question for you. Now that both of you guys have streamed for a bit, because let me set this up. I started podcasting about 5 years ago. I had my entire life a really bad stutter. I still have it a bit, but it's nothing even compared. Like the stutter has like cleared up for the most part in most cases. And I found after podcasting for a year or so, I could speak way, way better in work meetings, in situations of public speaking, of all these types of things. Do you think you've actually improved on your ability to talk in a room with, you know, another person after streaming? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I've always been a bit better at listening than speaking, I guess, and so I think through streaming, it's maybe equalized that a little bit more. I am able to speak in front of groups of people. I guess that's always been the thing for me. I mean, I can speak with people more one-on-one, but public speaking was never my favorite thing at all. And so getting more comfortable with having that many eyes on you, even if you can't see the eyes, just knowing that people are tuning in, I do think that's translated a bit to in-person speaking at meetings and things like that. And of course, just streaming and making content, being online in general, I do think those experiences rub off on you in other ways as far as solidifying maybe some of those pieces of your personality that were already there, helping like bring some of those things to the surface. I think for me, I've definitely grown a thicker skin, I guess you could say, from being on the internet.
You don't survive if you don't grow thicker skin.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think I've definitely grown in my ability to speak in groups, and probably also a lot of it I think is being able to start and carry on conversations, mostly with people that I know. Like, I'm still really bad with small talk with strangers, but it's because that's like what I do when I'm streaming is like, let's drill down in this, right? Like, let's go deeper. Like, I think I've gotten a lot better at that. And so when I'm in a situation where I'm almost inclined to like interview someone, like let's figure out the meat of the situation. So that I think I've gotten better at.
It's awesome. It's just interesting to me because streaming used to like scare the crap out of me and I just couldn't do it. And then the hardcore stuff really, like, once I learned how much of a cheat chat was, like, I was just like, okay. Like, even like, I mean, I have a small stream compared to you guys, but like 15, 20 people are being there and like, they're like, hey, Bob, did you know you could do this over here? And I'm like, what? Oh, man. Like, so finding that out throughout hardcore, I was just like, well, I wonder, I'm going to start streaming TBC too. I'll stream our raids, and it's come a different growing pains, like paying too much attention to chat and then not paying enough attention to your raid is something a lot of streamers are guilty of and have to learn how to maintain too.
Definitely a balance. Yeah.
Yep. Oh man. Well, okay. So any plans for your content moving forward? Are you just going to keep doing this? Or did you like plan to stream any other games or anything else?
So, and over like the couple years that I've streamed, I've mainly streamed Classic WoW. That's kind of been my thing. I have tried some other MMOs. At one point, I played a little Guild Wars 2. I tried Final Fantasy, just kind of dabbled in those things. I've done some React content, some variety streams, and kind of at the end of the day, I've found that really it seems like what I'm enjoying most authentically usually translates the best on stream. So if I'm having a good time playing WoW, that reflects, and people are also having a good time. Nobody wants to watch somebody who's not enjoying what they're doing. And so I think in terms of future content for the immediate future, I am having so much fun with TBC. I'm so excited about Wrath. I will definitely be doing a lot of Wrath content. And then beyond that, I mean, I think time will tell. I may venture into some other games. I know you guys were saying earlier you could never see yourself getting back into retail. I will say I feel similarly in some ways. I do feel like it would be hard to get back into, but you never know. With the new expansion coming out, maybe I'll give that a try at some point too.
I mean, I think a lot of people trying do other that. Things. Yeah. I think it's just there's some of us that are just like can't do it, but I think for the most part,
maybe I would feel that way after trying it. But I usually am at least willing to give things a chance. So who knows? But yeah, for the immediate future, World of Warcraft, Wrath, all of that is the game plan for stream content for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, going into to the last part of this, Wrath Classic's coming out. You know, this is interesting because, you know, we kind of talked about with Duranasaur a little bit about Wrath because he hadn't played it, you know, prior either. So what are you excited about going into Wrath? Like, what are like some of the things that you're like, oh, I can't wait for this. I've heard so much about this, yada, yada.
So I think I touched on it briefly, but that idea of people kind of being in the same place and coming back together, I am really excited for that, the community standpoint. Outside of that, I am excited to try tanking again. So I was tanking all of Classic, and that's what I did in retail. I moved away from that in TBC, playing as a warlock. So I'm excited to try Prop Paladin and kind of stepping back into that role in these new raids that I haven't experienced. So I think that's going to be really, really exciting. And honestly, some of the quality of life features of Wrath, I'm very excited about as well. Dual spec, I wish so badly that that was already a thing for a really long time.
I've said it episode 2 of this show.
Yeah.
Like, and it was prior to AQ opening up, because I started this show about the same time you started streaming, it sounds like. And yeah, I said the same thing. Like, it should have been in Classic from the start. It was the best decision they had ever made. Sorry, I don't want to get on crazy, but like, I'm a crazy man about dual spec.
I feel the same way. Yes, I feel the same way. I say it every single week when I'm respecing for PvP, PvE. I'm like, give me dual spec. I'm so ready for it. So definitely some of those quality of life features I'm excited about as well in Wrath.
Nice. Well, and you know, as I've not played it, I mean, I have to say most specs and classes, like, you've been in the same boat as me, and I don't know if you have hated it as much as me, but I've hated the decision to go lock for a long time. It was a lot more fun earlier on, but now that it's just the spec where you just shadow bolt and curse, like, at least Sunwell has things where I need to remember to keep my curse up on Muru while I'm doing something else. But like, it's been so one button. There's so many classes coming in Wrath that have rotations that feel good and satisfying. Have you heard this too?
Yeah, and I also think one thing that excites me a lot about Wrath is people have said it becomes a bit more about the player and not the class, whereas you've had these classes like Warlock that were just king regardless, you know, one button shadow bolt spamming Andy is still going to outperform, you know, a different class or spec in some cases. I feel like I've heard that in Wrath, the class balance is a bit better. And so if you have a good player who is playing a class that may be a bit more complex, they will still outperform, you know, some of these other things that have historically been better. And so I think that's exciting. I love to see more colors in a raid and some differences in the class composition. And I'm excited to see how that all plays out in Wrath raid comps and what ends up being, you know, top, if anything, or, you know, if every raid will look different and who's performing the best.
Yeah, we're already with the Prot Warrior, you know, revenge spec. We're already seeing people mess with specs like that, you know, that are going to be, that's what I love about, you know, Classic is like the different things you can figure out over time with the intricate talent trees. But yeah, things get even for locks, like the rotations get really satisfying, like for both Destro and Affy, and I believe Demonology too. And so it's just like, that part is really neat. Then you also have the part where there's no more chamois swapping. You don't have to have a chamois for every group, because now one chamois gives the entire raid, you know, all of their totems and either bloodthirst or heroism, you know, and that's a huge thing. There are some things that you can kind of that you can still kind of cheese, like maybe Rogue's Tricks of the Trade, but from what I hear, Warcraft Logs is working on doing the Final Fantasy model, where giving your tricks to someone else actually gives that damage back to you on logs. So instead of giving it to a buddy, you're going to give it to the smartest person to have it, you know? And so therefore it's something I guess Final Fantasy did Zyrene talked about it when he came on the show a few episodes ago, but then I checked out Prepared podcast, which he does, and he said that it was like almost a for sure go for them to do that. So there's a lot less cheesing with moving chamois around. Everybody gets all of the buffs for the most part, which is just huge because no DPS sitting in a bad group ever enjoyed that. Like it just didn't feel good. You're like, oh man. Okay, well, I guess I'm in this group.
Yeah.
As the survival hunter in TBC, yeah.
Yep. And you can stack so many different classes now, like rather than like vanilla having to stack warriors or having to stack locks in TBC, like and in chamois, you can stack a bunch of different things and still have all your buffs. So that's something to really look forward to. Any fears you might have?
I guess I feel like maybe just a bit of a lack of preparation in terms of resources. I know that's been a big conversation, how much everything is going to cost once Wrath gets here. And I do feel like I am a little bit behind from that perspective because I haven't been playing TBC, all of TBC. Like I said, I took several months off playing SOM, and I have also split my time across multiple tunes. So I don't have this one main with thousands and thousands of gold that I'm going in and planning to work on first. And so I think just kind of figuring out how that's going to look and navigating that, I guess, when it gets here, but also, I guess, starting to realistically prep for that over the next few weeks, getting caught up a little bit on gold and things like that. Yeah, I guess I think that's kind of my main thing. And then it is always just a little overwhelming when you're doing something that's new for the first time. So I just kind of navigating that transition of learning the content, but that's way easier nowadays than it used to be because there are plenty of guides and plenty of things, and maybe beta at some point, can test those things out. So
it's still overwhelming. Like I played at a high level in Wrath PvE wise, and I got in the beta and was like, oh god, so overwhelming. I'm like, glyphs, where do I get glyphs? Oh yeah, I can learn dual spec. When do you do that again? Oh yeah, it's just all these different things. But yeah, so you talk about not being ready with gold. So I'm sitting like in a good spot. I just keep gaining gold. Like even though I'm going to GDKPs, like I just keep gaining. I keep working the auction house. So I'm good there. But if you're not good there, have you thought about fresh? Like a lot of people are like thinking about fresh.
Oh, I mean, I'm fine. I'm probably better off on gold than some people are. I also hear about people who have like, I don't even like gold cap. I mean, they're going in like they're.
Oh, well, I mean,
so I guess the bar is kind of high. I guess where I'm hearing what other people have prepped.
Yeah.
But I will say, so I love the idea of fresh. I've always hoped for fresh servers. I think that's such a fun experience for people who are planning to play it. The issue for me with devoting time to fresh on lunch is just then being behind on my tunes that I already have commitments to with guild raids and things like that. And so for me, I won't be planning to play on fresh initially if I ever get around to it, because I have, several tunes and several guilds at this point where I'm trying to get leveled up and ready to raid with all of those groups of people. But I do think fresh is a great option if you're getting back into TBC, or maybe you haven't been in TBC, or if you don't have those commitments, you're kind of a free agent and you're looking for a group of people to play with. I think fresh would be awesome, but just for me, I'm not planning on playing it initially anyways. Are you guys thinking about that?
I feel the same way as you, but I'm curious about I feel exactly the same way as you. I'm like going with a guild, it'd be interesting to check out, the first couple of weeks, but like only if I have time with my prep going on for other things. But Duranasaur, I'm curious about.
I have an established guild on Faralina, and kind of like what we're saying, like all my resources are on that one server. So
all your base belong to us.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be where I play mainly, but the SOM guild that I raid with is on EU servers, and they want to go Wrath, and they want to go fresh for Wrath because they all skipped TBC. They were all playing Season Mastery the whole time. So they've asked me to play with them. So there's a chance that in whatever extra time I have that I will be leveling and playing on EU fresh.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sitting at like over 30k gold now, and like I've got the stuff to get all my stuff at the start. Like I don't think I'm gonna play fresh, and I want to have a priest worked up too, which I'm gonna do once they give us the EXP boost thing. So I don't know. It sounds
do you have
fun.
any thoughts about, since you've played so much SOM, I feel like one thing that I've heard this conversation about what happens to those tunes at the end of Season of Mastery, and I wonder if you have any thoughts about that. I know there, has always been this idea of, well, what if those SOM tunes were able to go into TBC and then ultimately into Wrath? Do you have any thoughts about that as somebody who's invested so much time into SOM?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I did get to see a little exchange between a member of the Classic WoW team. And it was someone asking them like, hey, would you guys ever consider letting us take our Season Mastery tunes to Wrath, since the end of Season Mastery is sort of going to line up with Wrath coming
timeline
out. And the WoW Classic team member said that's something we're thinking about. So there is a chance that Season Mastery characters you might actually be able to transfer them to Wrath of the Lich King servers. So maybe just completely skipping TBC with those characters.
There were a couple of videos that, couple of leak videos that were suggesting that they might be moving in that direction too. And that's something that I've always been so hopeful for, because I feel like even though I didn't spend so much time in Classic Season of Mastery myself, I feel like there are a lot of people who have been playing that want to come back for Wrath, and just having that barrier to entry lowered a bit by having that tune leveled up a little bit, I feel like would help a lot of people get back into Wrath. So I was just curious if you had thoughts about that, because it's not something that a lot of people talk about. I mean, I think Season of Mastery conversations aren't happening as much, but I know they've made so many changes with PvE to PvP transfers, these big server transfers, and kind of helping with that barrier to entry decreasing for people. And that's something I haven't really heard any updates on. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. Everyone from like my guild that I've talked to about it, it doesn't seem like there's any downside. Like, it doesn't seem like a level 60 character from Season of Mastery is going to have any negative impact on a Wrath of the Lich King server, if that is something you're allowed to do. Like, I don't know why anyone that's currently playing on like Faralina or Benediction would care if suddenly like a level 60 from Jam Gabar or Shadow Strike shows up on their server.
I think most people wouldn't. The only downside to it that I've heard is people feeling a certain way about titles. And so if you did the rank, if you were more of a PvP person and you did the rank 14 grind in Season of Mastery, and that might look different than
Scarab Lord or something.
The bigger ones.
But how many people actually did Scarab Lord? Like
on our Season of Mastery. So I was on my server, I think it was like, I want to say it was like 7 or 8 still. Like, it was still, there were still a lot of people that were on top of it. And
but on Whitemane, there were like 40 to 50. Like,
well, you had way more people.
Yeah, but I was just, but that's what I'm saying. Like, does it really matter that much if 7 people come over?
A drop in the bucket. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say. And then you can't please everyone, right? So it's worse like saying, okay, well, you can transfer them, but we're stripping away all titles and mounts, I guess, if you got those things in SOM, or we just kind of let it go. And then, I don't know. It's tough to say. But it's cool to hear that they're thinking about it, at least.
It's interesting to hear that they're thinking about it. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
We'll see.
I was just going to go on to say there are, like, we covered it here. Their original Bluepost said Season of Mastery characters will be moved to the Classic Era servers after Season of Mastery is over. Although I do hear there's one server that's pretty popping still at the moment is Whitemane. I guess they like moved everybody in there, and so everybody's in the one spot.
Yeah. Yeah, Classic Era's got it's at, I think from what I've heard, Alliance side, NA is the place to be. Like if you have any interest in playing Classic Era, which are the forever vanilla servers that are on the next patch, if you have like an Alliance character on NA, you can transfer it for like a fee, I think, up until pre-patch of Wrath.
I don't know. I think it's over. Like I think.
Oh, is it over?
Yeah, I think it's over because I was gonna do it, but then because like we covered it on the show, but who knows? It could still be open. I haven't checked. I haven't logged in and checked.
Or you could level and play there if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but I think you guys are on to something better. I think allowing them to just move to a Wrath server is a good thing now. Definitely not the fresh servers. I really feel like the fresh servers should be held away from everything. But
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, let those people have what they want. I feel like fresh should have been in TBC, but plans for the future. If you you sticking with that with Melderon's old guild, or do you have multiple guilds?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm still meeting my warlock in that guild. So new guild tag, same group of people. And I'm leveling up a prop paladin. So I'm level 68 on the prop paladin, and moving into Wrath, I may be tanking for that group instead of playing my warlock. So if that happens, I'll maybe have my warlocks elsewhere, free agent. I don't know what exactly yet, but I have 2 warlocks now in Fairlina to play, and then this warrior that's over on Benediction that I'd love to find a home for and play as well. So heading into Wrath with 2 warlocks, a paladin, and a warrior. So that's kind of my setup for Wrath. I think it's a pretty solid lineup.
It's gonna be your mains then. So you're gonna stick. You said you had a rogue. You're not gonna do any rogue. Rogue is freaking fun in Wrath.
Well, I guess it depends on what we were just talking about. So I have a rogue and a priest from SOM. And so if those came over to Wrath, then I would play them. But I don't have a rogue in TBC at the moment. So otherwise I wouldn't. Gotcha. Probably wouldn't play those. Yeah. But yeah, if they did Classic Season Mastery to Wrath, I would definitely play priest and rogue as well. Then I'm just basically playing everything at that point. Might be too many tunes, but...
Duranasaur, are you gonna play anything like Wrath-wise besides Hunter?
I have an enhancement shaman.
Oh yeah, you talked about
pretty
that
well
earlier.
geared. Yeah, so that'll probably be up there. I do really want to try out Unholy DK. A lot of people have been telling me they think I would enjoy it quite a bit because it's a pet class. They say that with how much I enjoy Hunter, there's a good chance it'll translate pretty well. So I am probably going to try that. I haven't even touched DK on like the beta or anything, so I need to at least try to get a feel for it.
They just came out with it. I mean, if you do nothing else, definitely play through the starting stuff of the DK because it's really neat. It's the first time they did it where, according to how far you are through the different quests, the quest area completely changes. Like it keeps like you're instanced in certain parts of it, which can be kind of a pain in the ass if you're working up with someone else and you get to the next part, you zone away from them. But it's a really neat storyline. And when they first got into that type of stuff, that's another thing. If you do end up dungeon cleaving, it is going to kind of like set you back because you don't get the rep like you did in TBC. In Wrath, you want to do the quest that gets you enough rep to buy the tabard, to wear tabards in any dungeon to work up your rep. But also on top of that, there's a ton of cool quests where you like interact with the Lich King. Like it instances you in the open world for different cut scenes, and it's a really neat change in the way they did questing that I always loved. So you guys might have to check that out too. But all right, well, I think that'll do it for the episode, guys. Like this has been a good time. Anybody have an add-on they want to shout out?
I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure which ones you've done recently, but I will mention one that people always ask me about. I use called Talented, and since I play so many tunes and so many specs, and we don't have dual spec just yet, it's a great one that lets you apply a template for your tune. So respecking is one button instead of having to look it up every time. People always ask me about that. It's probably my number one asked about add-on that I use.
Someone mentioned it. I don't know if it was the add-on of the week, but yeah, that's definitely a good one. I haven't gotten it myself because I'm like, well, I'm already this far along. Like, I'm just gonna dual specs coming.
It's so worth it to get.
Probably
I'm
should, because
you, even if you do it one time, you'll never go back.
Yeah, my alts, my warrior, and my rogue, I respec constantly, so it probably would be a good idea because every once in a while I click a point in the wrong spot and I'm like, oh, can I live with this? I'm usually specking while I'm on the flight path or, walking into the dungeon. So I haven't even stayed there to where I could just pay again. But, all right. Well, we're going to start closing out the show. I want to encourage everybody to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You'll be able to see when the show goes live. If you want to follow the Mash Those Buttons network, you can do so by following the Mash Network. We want your WoW stories and whatever you want to send us that's longer than a tweet. You can send those emails to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Discord, it's mash.gg/discord. People have started to join this, so conversations have started to kind of pop up. If it keeps going, we might actually have a thing there. But it's mash.gg/discord. How can you help out the podcast? Well, now we just recently did our Patreon, so you can go to patreon.com/Warcraft Reloaded and you can join. And got a few different options there. We'll probably be adding some stuff to it. If you think of any perks that you would like, let us know. We're new to the Patreon thing and not really sure what to offer. So if you'd like to give us something there, we appreciate it. If you want to not spend money, you can help us by leaving ratings and reviews. You can leave ratings on Spotify. You can leave reviews and ratings on iTunes. We haven't had one in a while, so we're running a bit dry there. So we'd love some more of those there. You can also leave ratings and reviews on warcraftradio.com/directory. All right. It's the worst part when I have to just throw up all of that stuff. Duranasaur, where can we find you? Plug it all.
You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Duranasaur or on YouTube. I think my YouTube is just Duran, Duran. And Twitter, it's Duranasaur24. I think that's it.
24, yep. And definitely check out his YouTube. He's doing a lot of different stuff. Guys, definitely gotta see it. It's good. It's good stuff. Good stuff. All right,
thanks, Bob.
Silver, thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome getting to know you. Let everybody else know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me. So you guys can find me at twitch.tv/SilverTV. I stream every single night. And also, I guess, on Twitter at SilverTV is the Twitter tag.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get out of here. We will see you next week, or at least I will. Bye. Thank you very much for checking out Warcraft Reloaded podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content.